Enchanté. In our modern throwaway culture, many of us cherish things that were made to last a lifetime, like this beautiful vintage garment sent to me by my friend Abby Jo over at Forgotten Way Farms. If you've never checked out her channel, you definitely should. Today, I would like to talk to you about caring for vintage linens. This is Parisienne Farmgirl. My name is Angela. Bienvenue and welcome to my channel. Today's video is sponsored by my friend Janet and American Blossom Linens. American Blossom Linens are woven to last a lifetime. You know, you've heard me talk about them on my podcast. You can invest once in a beautiful set of sheets for those of you like me who prefer vintage bedding, but it's impossible to find sheets to accommodate a modern mattress. Then American Blossom Linens is just for you. Or if you're someone who wants something made in the United States, homegrown from organic Texas-grown cotton, and you just want to invest once, definitely click my link in this video description and use my coupon code for 20% off. I have had American Blossom on my bed for the last few years. If you're tired of buying sheets every 2 years, if you're tired of just getting 2 pillowcases instead of 4, or the sheets not fitting your modern mattress properly, then definitely, I cannot stress to you, give them a visit. Follow this link in my video description. Enjoy 20% off. And now let's explore this topic of caring properly for our truly vintage linens. I was raised on vintage linens. They have been a part of my life since I was a little girl. My great-grandmother is the person who gave that heritage to our family. She was born in Germany, but was a farmer's wife for most of her life in Illinois. And creating beautiful linens and mending linens for neighboring townfolk and farmers was a way that she contributed to her family. As a farmer's wife and avid cook, it was no surprise for my great-grandmother to be preparing food for as many as 40 to 50 people over the weekend, whether they were farm hands or members of the church. But in her free time, she did create and mend linens to make extra money for the family. And I often imagine her in her rocking chair on the front porch, doing so while my grandmother played baseball in the front yard with her brothers. Great-grandmother made the hand-stitched quilt covering that was my mother's bed and smooth pillowcases with colored stitching. I would often hear, "Great-Grandma Bauer made that, please be careful." Each item was precious as Grandma Bauer went blind in her later years, but not before giving our family so many precious heirlooms. Even after her loss of sight, she continued to make what are still precious family heirlooms. I remember visiting her in the nursing home as a child, and she would weave bread bags, Wonder Bread bags, around wire hangers. And I remember as a child using those hangers for the very best pieces in my wardrobe. In fact, I still do that to this day. I have many of the items she made for us, including the last pillowcases she made before she went blind. And over the years, I have learned some tricks and tips on how to care for these very precious items. And today, I'm going to share with you what I've learned. Caring for these pieces is a responsibility that I take pride in, and I'm always looking to improve my care techniques. And if you are a collector of vintage linens, I'm sure that you are too. Perhaps you too have heirlooms to care for in a linen closet full of textiles made by an ancient stranger, and out of love for the quality and respect for the maker, you too hope to see them survive for many more years to come. If, like me, you are the keeper of precious family heirlooms, it is crucial to store them properly so they can be passed down for generations to come. Store your pieces in a cool environment and never, ever store them in plastic or on raw wood shelving. If you must, as you see that I choose to here in my linen cabinet, Lay down muslin or acid-free tissue paper between the wood and the fabric. No matter how sealed or old your wood is, it does contain tannins that can leach into the materials and stain them. And it also makes them sticky. If you've ever reached for a linen in the cupboard and felt like it was covered in film, that's why. I have learned this the hard way, and so for good measure, you can place the tissue paper in between each item. A few times a year, air out your precious pieces in the yard, and with proper care, they can be used and enjoyed for years to come. If you're going to iron your pieces, know that it's not ideal to store ironed pieces. As much as I love the tidy look of starched linens, and you can see some that I have here that were given to me as gifts, I do love to store them in a nice tidy stack. But the starch can break down during the storage, turning your linens yellow. Laying your items flat to dry will do wonders for wrinkles. But if you want to iron them, gather them while they are still damp, and using the hottest iron you can, press them until they are completely dry. When ironing, turn your items inside out for good measure, and when ironing embroidery, lay a terry cloth towel down first to make sure that the stitching attractively bumps out. It's essential to know that you should never machine wash or dry clean an old quilt. Many suggest sending them to a conservator to be cared for, and it's safest to air your quilts out on a sunny day. If they contain bug larvae, you can freeze them in a sealed bag after gently vacuuming them, and this bag should remain in the freezer for 10 days, then thawed at room temperature, and the contents aired outdoors. If you need to wash your quilts, I would use a fantastic product called Quilt Wash. Old quilts can be extremely fragile and delicate, and so when washing them by hand, I do suggest laying out a big sheet and putting your quilt in the center, and then wrapping up that sheet on all four corners and submerging your quilt into the water that way, so that when you pull it out, you aren't putting so much pressure on the fibers lifting out a wet, heavy piece of fabric. And I'll show you this in detail on a smaller scale with a christening gown. Restoration is an incredible product to use on general linens, napkins, tablecloths, pillowcases, tea towels, and like I said, if your item is fragile or heavy, I would definitely use a secondary fabric underneath as you're moving it in and out of the water. Restoration has very easy directions on the packaging to follow, and if you have to rescue a very dirty piece, it may need several soakings. Typically, 1 to 3 times are required for slightly yellowed pieces. After your water is clear, after a prolonged soaking using restoration, if needed, you can also use white vinegar. So refill the container with water and add up to a cup of vinegar. Stir it gently and allow it to soak for 15 minutes. Drain it, fill it again with plain water, soak again, and then by all means, as they have been doing for hundreds of years, lay it out in the sunshine on a flat surface. If you're concerned about the lawn being dirty, you can always use something like a terry cloth towel spread on an outdoor table or even on the grass, and lay your pieces on top of it out in the sunshine to continue the natural bleaching that occurs in the sun and allows them to dry. If you have an item that's just giving you a ton of grief and it needs some extra care, I would suggest a product called Wink Rust and Stain Remover. And when all else fails, of course, a little bleach now and then never hurt anyone. Use a bleach pen so you have maximum control, and be sure to rinse very, very good. If you'd like more ideas on how to take care of old linens, then I would suggest grabbing an old copy of my magazine, The Old World Design Society. There was a complete article about this subject in the spring edition, and while it's currently no longer available in print, you can grab the digital edition over on my website, and there will be a link at the end of this video. A few times a year, air out your precious pieces in the yard, and with proper care, they can be used and enjoyed for years to come. I hope this brief video gave you a few ideas on enjoying vintage items, on giving you the confidence to purchase them if you see them at an estate sale or a tag sale, and of course, dress your bed in American Blossom linens and enjoy that modern vintage feel on your modern mattress. If you enjoy conversations like this and you'd like to learn more about the old ways, be sure that you are subscribed to my Old World Design Society magazine. Stick around, watch some videos, and I will see you again very soon. A bientôt.